Hey everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of December 20th through the 26th. And what I really want to talk about today is really almost like a review of the year, because our main aspect of this week is the third and final exact hit of the Saturn Uranus Square. Now, if you remember, you've been following the blog for a while, this was the main aspect of 2021 as far as a long-term aspect that was operating in the background of the world and all the events happening in the world, both on macro and micro levels. So it's like a very, very long-term and background event that is like literally imprinting an energy onto everything really that's happening on planet Earth these days. And what's interesting about this too, before I review that, is next year, 2022, it's still going to be the main aspect of the year again. Mainly because even though it's the third and final exact hit this week, is going to stay very, very close to one another, the square, within a few degrees. And actually by next fall, in September and October of 2022, it will get so close to exact again, it will actually be within 1 degree of exactness. So in a certain kind of way, there's almost exact fourth and fifth hits for this next fall, this Saturn-Uranus square. And so if you remember, the Saturn-Uranus square in a very general way means the structures that we are used to, structures that we have formed over long periods of time, are at the brink of basically collapsing. So when you think about that, think about it in a very general way. Think about structures collapsing, and then Uranus brings in very sudden changes when these structures collapse. And for most of us, these changes can be very upsetting because the structure of everything that we're used to is crumbling. So usually this is a very challenging crisis type of aspect, in the sense of we're watching things that we're very used to being a certain way, that's the structure, falling apart. So, I mean, think about this past year. Think about your personal life. And now I'm going to review a few of the things that have gone on in the political spectrum that really, when you think about structure falling apart, think about how these things that happened in the history of the world in 2021 are so representative of that energy. January 6th, 2021, Capitol riot. That is the very first big news event in the U.S. Capitol building structure penetrated by rebellious people. Uranus structure fell apart, was violated basically, and vacuum created. Crowd rushes in, wild, crazy scene. That was example number one. I'm going to go through like some of the other examples that have happened in the history of the world, and you will see how that is the aspect and the energy that's behind a lot of these. How about the fall of Afghanistan? Complete collapse of the structure of a whole country within 2 weeks. Complete collapse, you know. Then we have right now the current President Biden in the U.S. with his agenda, unable to get his agenda going despite getting voted into office. So once again, the structure of what he wants to do is just not happening. It's just being constantly attacked by individuals in a rebellious way, and they're like trying to force changes into the structure of what he wanted. The separation of the powers of government in the United States. We're watching these three parts of the government, three different structures, like really losing their boundaries with one another because of the political situation in the United States. So you can see how the whole structure of the United States government is actually changing as this year has gone on. And then we have the COVID, which is, really, of course, the biggest story, and really was started under the Pluto Saturn conjunction in 2020. That was really what, was an aspect that was behind the COVID. But what has the COVID done since then? The Saturn Uranus took over from the Pluto Saturn conjunction of last year. And basically the COVID has deteriorated much of the structure of society, like people going to work every day, for instance, children going to school every day. This is all structures of our society that are crumbling and have been crumbling now for a year or so under this Saturn Uranus square. So very interesting. And then the other parts of the world, the country of Myanmar, completely collapsing their government and the whole coup there. Colombia and Venezuela, two more governments that completely collapsed, and and their whole structure of their economies. I mean, people were like, don't even go to these countries right now because they're so unstable. That's Uranus. And there's so much quick change going on that, it's hard to say what it's all going to end up looking like. And then, think about that when the Suez Canal got stuck by that ship and it started to back up all the supply chain. And then the interruption in the supply chain, which is a complete structure that completely collapsed this year because of a number of various reasons, not the least of which was the United States under the former president slapping all these tariffs and trade regulations on China. So once again, a whole system is collapsing, and there's this rapid change happening, and it's very chaotic, and not much is sticking. There's not a lot of solutions that are going on. It's just like rapidly changing. Country of Peru has had multiple elections this year over and over for a new government. The UK breaking from the European Union, breaking out of that structure. And now they're this lone wolf, but they're finding out it's not easy to be a lone wolf, just a lot of different stuff like that. How about the building that collapsed in Miami from like the water getting underneath it? And so the whole structure fell apart. That was another big part of the year. And then we have all the weather changes going on across the globe. It's like the whole structure of the patterns of the weather have changed too. Just the Midwest just went through an event that has never even occurred before, where there are constant winds of 60 to 80 miles an hour for a couple of days on end, on all these wildfires that have been going on, and then you think about like the floods in Europe and how like Germany never experienced the flood where the river overflowed and started inundating all the structures of these towns and buildings and stuff. War in Ethiopia, thought they were going to go in and quickly squash out a little rebel group. Now the whole country structure is in danger of collapsing because of the results of that. And Haiti, once again, Haiti seems to constantly be in a position, they get another big earthquake. What is that? All the structures fall down. So, in general, what I want you to understand is how this is happening. Now, look at your own life too. Look at your own life this year, because almost everyone I know and people who are my clients are having the same story in their lives, in the micro of their lives, that the structure of their lives is not what it used to be. It's shifting and changing. And the COVID alone was responsible for almost the whole world's population and the structure of the way we did things on a daily basis collapsing. So you can see how potent this aspect is. And, 2022 is going to be the same thing. It's going to be a continuation of this energy of structure forms collapsing, old forms and structures collapsing, a vacuum being created, new energy rushing in, but much of it is not well thought out. It's impulsive, reactionary energy, rebellious energy, and therefore most of that energy will not stick either. It will not fill in the space that's being left behind from these structures collapsing. But hopefully, with Uranus involved, we will find certain brilliant, ingenious ideas that will help change the forms of these structures and make them more efficient and better for everyone. But, in general, it's just a very intense time of upsetting changes, fast changes where just these old patterns are being shattered and broken up. And it's creating a lot of crisis, a lot of tension in people's lives because of these unexpected events, things that, in our personal lives and in the greater world that are just like very unexpected events that we have to react to very quickly. And they're breaking out old patterns. They're shattering them. They're going to do it through crisis. Basically, if we don't honor that aspect ourselves, it's going to happen to us. So we have to learn to accept change. And in fact, the best way to deal with the Saturn Uranus square is not only to learn to accept change, but to actually embrace it. And just, you don't want to take it too far because you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. But there is an incredible creative change that is going on behind all these structures collapsing. And it will be upsetting, especially for people. The more you're invested in the way things are, the more upsetting it's going to be. So it really depends on your attitude how this is going to play out ultimately for you. But it really is, and you'll see it in your relationships too. Even the structure of our relationships shifting with people and the events and at work, it's going to come through all the things you normally do. You may find your work structure completely change, your family structure completely change. So this is the continuation. So this week is that third and final exact hit, but we're looking at an aspect that's going to be very potent all next year still. And so a continuation of the world structures deteriorating, collapsing quickly, and new things rushing in to fill that in, many of them very chaotic, not long lasting. All right, a couple other things I want to mention this week. Monday, today, there's a Mercury trine Uranus, and that's a really, really sweet aspect. Mercury is the lower mind, the intellect, and Uranus is the higher mind, the intuition. So the trine is a harmonious aspect that really helps the lower mind and upper mind really work together in harmony. And usually that is brilliant ideas, like ingenuity, flashes of inspiration, flashes of excitement about life and where it's headed and where you want to go and the experiences you want to have and the connections you want to make. And so it's very intuitive energy. And a lot of times the ideas can come at us so quickly that we may not even latch on to all of them. But, if it feels like it's an important one, you definitely want to get that one down. But it really makes our life lively and exciting. It makes the mind what are the possibilities under this? Where can I take this? Because it's bringing us new experiences. It's bringing us new knowledge. It's bringing us new information that really jacks us up about life. And the learning that we're going through with that has us kind of adjusting how we think and what we're, interested in and those kinds of things. So it's really a real exciting aspect, and it kicks off this week on Monday. Now on Tuesday, Tuesday has Ceres. If you remember, she went retrograde a few weeks ago, so she was in Gemini, but now she's going to go back to Taurus, where she had spent a lot of time in the late summer and fall, when we had that really kind of crazy time for 2 or 3 months there, where the supply chain and all that stuff was breaking down. And Ceres is all about, nurturing, making sure you have what you need, like food, and love from your family, So with Ceres sliding back into Taurus, I think once again, we're not over a lot of these issues about not having enough resource, possibly, or feeling like we're not getting it. And it's interesting enough, too, because it's going to quincunx the sun the same day, which shows that we all need to make adjustments. We need to make adjustments to the new reality that, maybe when you go into the store, the thing you want is not there, and it may not be there for a while. So what are you going to do? You're going to adjust to things like that. Interestingly enough, too, and I mentioned this in the monthly for December, this week is also the exact Jupiter-Ceres square, and it's actually exact on Christmas Day. And that's another one where you want to, provide that nurturing to the people you love, but it's right now, it's hard to get it. And maybe you can't even get them the right Christmas gift, it's just not available right now. So very interesting. I think we'll be looking at that stuff again this week too. And also on Tuesday is the day the sun goes into Capricorn. So that is the winter solstice. And I actually will probably do a blog on the winter solstice chart set for Washington, D.C. later in this week. And that'll give us a look at the next quarter for the United States, politically and socially, what we can expect. But so sun into Capricorn, the shortest days, is kind of like the season is like the shortest days, longest nights. The light has gone away the furthest, so now Capricorn is going to turn that back, and the days are going to start getting longer again. So Capricorn's all about wisdom. It's all about knowledge and wisdom, and it's wanting to, make a system work as well as possible. So it may be a little bit difficult, with all this Saturn Uranus going on, which is the ruler. Capricorn is Saturn, and the Ceres going backwards and stuff. But really, it's a time of the year when we're really get into a more serious, practical way of thinking, and what has value in the real world for us, what is going to get us practical results. So it is an ambitious time of the year where people really want to move forward in the physical world with their physical assets and bring in things like that. And then, like I said, there's a lot of wisdom involved in Capricorn too. It knows which systems have worked in the past, and it likes to rely on those things. But it definitely gives us, on an individual level, a more serious kind of approach to life. And, it can be a little bit sometimes almost narrow and tight, because it's really, feels like it has the right answers. So that time of the year coming up too. And then on Christmas Day itself, interestingly enough, and I talked about this last week, so Venus went retrograde on Saturday last week, and I did talk about that. And remember, Venus was conjunct Pluto when it went retrograde. It had just had a conjunction and went retrograde, so it starts retrograding back towards Pluto again. And so on Saturday, we're going to have the second exact Venus-Pluto conjunction. And like I said last week, this is really a time, not only when Venus retrograde, of you reassessing all your relationships and trying to figure out, which one, and especially in Capricorn, which ones are useful, how are they useful? Which ones are useful? What kind of area do they fit in? Do I want to make this more serious, or do I need to let it go more? So with the Pluto thing, just like I said last week, this brings up very intense emotional experiences between people. And there's two ways to go with this. There's probably a lot of ways to go with this, but in a general way, there's two ways to go with this. You can actually, if both people are emotionally stable and doing their work, it can be a very deepening experience that can really tighten people's connection together, kind of like a faded soulmate quality to the relationship. But if it's taken the other way, where people really haven't done enough of their work on themselves, it can really become a shadow casting kind of aspect where you're looking at your partner or your friends or your family and blaming them for all these intense emotions that are coming up between you. And it's like, no, those emotions wouldn't come up between you if there weren't two people involved. So the shadow casting and that energy can really get it into a negative spiral down where people can get very manipulative, possessive, jealous, and how far those kinds of like parts of the 7 deadly sin makeup start taking people and what they can do. You have to be really careful. It's like what was that old movie, 7 Days or something? That's very Venus Pluto, like getting into a very intense relationship, and then when it falls apart, reacting very intensely to that, maybe even violently. So it's like something, where are we going? Because there are going to be very deep, intense energies that come up in relationships, and this is really going to bring that back again. And then it's on Christmas Day too, which I think, on a very like practical, real world level, maybe there's a lot of people, once again, because of the COVID, the way the world is, who can't be with the people they want to be on Christmas Day. So that would be a Venus retrograde kind of energy thing too. Now, I think, there was also a Mars sextile Chiron on Christmas. So that is nice because that is like something where, people are willing to take actions to like bring change or bring some kind of healing into a hurt situation. So like maybe we're not having the ideal holiday. Maybe it's not because of people not being able to be there or been blocked or whatever it may be. Like this Mars Chiron trine will try to find like answers or solutions that are creative, innovative to like bringing some healing into a wounded situation. And then the last thing I want to mention this week is Sunday, the day after Christmas. There's a really sweet Mercury sextile Neptune, which to me is almost like an afterglow kind of energy of a really beautiful experience. It's definitely a mystical, spiritual energy. It makes us very sensitive to others and our environment, but in a good way. It's like intuitive, and it sparks the creative imagination. So world's kind of a little bit like an abstract painting when it's Mercury, Neptune like that, but it's also very sweet and gentle and can really give a lot of creative imagination. So like, like creative writing, things like that. You can get a lot of ideas for things like that. So, and like I said, really a lot of people will focus on their spiritual path and get into a contemplative state of mind. So a real nice end to the week that way. So, all right, that covers it. And like I said, just wanted to really mainly use this one to like reiterate the point of how this Saturn Uranus works so that you guys can really see how these long-term aspects that go on for sometimes years are really changing things in the background, and it really does filter up into our individual lives. And then the other important thing really is that Venus Pluto, that retrograde Venus Pluto conjunction. I mean, this is really, these next few weeks, really going to be sorting through all our relationships and trying to determine what the practical value of each one of them is for us, and then put it in its proper place in the structure or form of our lives and how we relate to others. So very interesting week, can be some intense times again for Christmas, because it's just, people are not going to get the holidays that they're used to again. So, once again, structure of something we're used to, the way we've done holidays for years, is no longer happening like that because of COVID. mainly and amongst other things. But anyway, that's the report for this week. This is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I do this weekly blog on YouTube every week. So if you get yourself a YouTube, get on YouTube, become a follower, get yourself an account first and become a follower and turn your notifications on, and then you'll know. Now, listen, it's on podcasts too. And people ask me what podcast. Listen, there's a lot of podcasts out there. Just go out and just put Astrological Winds channel and you'll find it. And if you need Spotify, just get on Spotify online and it'll tell you what podcasts are picking it up. And that way, you don't need to see it. I'm also the Astrological Winds channel is on Instagram. So become a follower on Instagram. And I not only post the weekly link on Instagram, but I sometimes do some daily stuff. So you might be missing some more insights if you're not following the Astrological Winds channel on Instagram. So try that. And then you can always Facebook me too. My Facebook account is private, but I take on friends. And I do post the link there too. This is a free service. The best way you can pay me back, there's two ways. The first way is to please pass the link on to someone else that might be interested in it. The second one is if you or anyone else needs astrological services, some kind of reading. I've been doing readings for 20 years, have amazing experiences with clients. Very similar to the weather report. You can do a predictive reading every year and get your own personal weather report. And of course, get your natal chart done first so you understand what's happening in your birth chart. But children's charts, relationship charts, election charts, like if you're starting a new business and you need the right time, the best timing, that's an election chart, marriage. Horary charts for questions that you just can't seem to find the right answer to, relocation and astrocartography if you're looking maybe move somewhere else, see what kind of impact it has, fixed star readings if you're looking for a deeper spiritual soul purpose to your life. So a lot of different kinds of readings. I also have classes. I've had a couple people ask me for classes. So the deal with classes is this. I got 5 classes up for beginning astrology right now, Western modern beginning astrology. They are $25 a class. And I send you the link to Dropbox right now where the class is. And then if you're a student, they're $20 a class. You got to show me a student ID. And you can just take them at your own pace. And I only have 5 set up right now. People will be, I have a lot of people say they want to do it. They start it. And then, I don't really hear much. So I will continue to put more classes up as more people actually really take them and follow through. But they are available too. So any of these services, the best way to get me is through my email, mattHue823@gmail.com. That's mattHue823@gmail.com. And just, if you're interested in some of the services, just drop me an email, talk about prices, what you can expect, those kind of things. My Venmo handle is at Matthew-Lawton, Lautn. I'm also on Zelle, PayPal, Apple Pay. Some people, if you want to give a monetary donation to the blog, those are ways that you can do it. And thank you for everyone who does do that. I do really appreciate anything that you can give. No amount is too small nor too large. And so, everybody, if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas, and hopefully find some joy in the season in this world that's changing a lot. And next week we'll get to the last week of December, and then the following week we'll probably take a general look at 2022. Although like I told you tonight, it's really going to be more Uranus Saturn for that, and then we'll look at the month of January too, and the following week. So remember, get on Instagram. Astrological Winds channel. Become a follower because I'm posting other stuff that's not on this blog at times. And there's some deeper stuff in there you might want to see. All right, this is Matthew Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. You all have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next week.